This chapter explains the role that grammar plays in models of communicative competence, define grammar for assessment purposes, describe the relationship among grammatical form, grammatical meaning, and pragmatic meaning, and present a theoretical model of grammar that will be used in this book as a basis for a model of grammatical knowledge. This will in turn be the basis for grammar test construction and validation. Over the last few decades, how has grammatical knowledge been understood and defined in the key theories of communicative competence? Lado 1961 suggested a phonology, structure, and lexicon model of language which encompasses all dimensions of linguistic form. Language competency was defined by Carroll 1968 in terms of phonology, orthography, grammar, and lexicon. Carroll saw the overlap between form and meaning in language use from this perspective. It was stated that tests should be designed to forecast how language elements and skills will be used in future social contexts or activities that learners will face in their lives. Carroll 1961 challenged the discrete point technique to testing one point of grammar at a time by connecting exams to target language use set. Euler in 1979 proposed a concept of second or foreign language proficiency in terms of an individual's pragmatic expectation in grammar, rejecting the elements and skills approach. Pragmatic expectancy grammar as a psychologically real system that causes the learner to process sequences of elements in a language that conform to the normal contextual constraints of that language, requiring the learners to relate sequences of linguistic elements via pragmatic mappings to the extra-linguistic context. Example of this is a gap-filling task. The test taker read a piece with periodic gaps in the text in this activity. Reading the section familiarizes the test taker with the passage's context, helping him or her to connect the information to additional linguistic context and understand it appropriately. This gives the test taker a foundation on which to predict information for the gap. Invoking the concept of expectancy, it forces the test taker to integrate his or her knowledge of grammar, meaning, and pragmatic use to complete the task. Grammar in this approach encompasses not only grammatical form but also grammatical form on the suprasentential or discourse level through cohesion and coherence. Canale and Swain in 1980 defined grammatical competence as knowledge of phonological, lexical, syntactic, and semantic rules. Bachman and Palmer in 1996 established a multi-component model of communicative language ability. They included non-linguistic aspects of communicative language ability that are used in test-taking and language use. In short, this model views language ability as an internal construct consisting of language knowledge and strategic competence that interacts with the language user's topical knowledge and other internal characteristics. In describing language knowledge, Bachman and Palmer specified two general components. So the first one is organizational knowledge, or how individuals control language structure to produce grammatically correct utterances or sentences and text. Organizational knowledge is further divided into grammatical knowledge, or how individual utterances or sentences are organized, and textual knowledge, or how utterances or sentences are organized into text. It refers to an individual knowledge of cohesion. In short, grammatical knowledge in this model accounts for grammar on sub-sentential and sentential levels, while textual knowledge accounts for language on suprasentential or discourse level. The second one is pragmatic knowledge, or how individuals communicate meaning and how they produce contextually appropriate utterances, sentences, or text. It is defined in terms of functional knowledge and social linguistic knowledge. Functional knowledge refers to how utterances or sentences and text are related to communicative goals of language users, and it enables individuals to use organizational knowledge to express or interpret language functions in communicative settings. While social linguistic knowledge refers to how utterances or sentences and text are related to features of the language use setting. It enables individuals to understand situation-specific language and to tailor language to a particular language use setting. This representation is useful from the standpoint of evaluation if our purpose is to measure linguistic forms alone, which there are numerous times when this is the case. For example, we may create a discrete point grammar test with the target components of the verb form have or has plus past participle, or a test that targets word order in question formation to determine an individual's understanding of the present perfect tense forms. This definition of grammatical knowledge as form, on the other hand, ignores circumstances in which a learner knows the form but is unsure of the meaning. It also doesn't distinguish between the many types of meanings encoded by grammatical forms. Consider how we might assess a student's grammatical understanding of the simple present, simple past, and present perfect tenses in conversational tales. Over the years, several different theories of communication competence have developed. The role of grammar in models of communicative language ability might wish to test for both grammatical form and meaning in order to ask questions such as what makes the three tenses different in terms of time. Thus, the learner knows to use the present perfect to communicate the notion of current relevance in announcing that a story is about to be told. Grammar, according to Rhea Dickens in 1991, is the one embodiment of syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. She argued that for grammar to be really communicative, it has to be enabled for the processing of semantically acceptable syntactic forms which are then guided by pragmatic rules, rather than being purely a manifestation of morphosyntax. The purpose of communicative grammar test, according to her, is that to provide an opportunity for the test taker to generate his or her own message and to produce grammatical responses as appropriate to a particular scenario. Larsen Freeman's in 1991 to 1997 framework for teaching grammar in communicative language teaching context is another view of grammar worth considering, dividing grammatical knowledge into three categories. These are linguistic form, semantic meaning, and pragmatic application. Freeman's model is unquestionably the most detailed in showing how a single linguistic form can encode several meanings. However, that there is a fundamental difference in how grammatical forms and meanings are used to evoke literal and intended messages, and then how they are used to convey implied meanings that require pragmatic inference. For example, I may understand the literal meaning of a joke but may completely fail to see the double meaning, which is the pragmatic inference, that makes it funny. For this reason, grammatical knowledge and pragmatic knowledge is separate components of language ability.